Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who wishes there were prop bets available for this fight. I'm here to talk about Ho Choi versus Kyle Nelson. Superboy, Korean Superboy Ho Choi hasn't fought in 3 years, and he's coming off a 3-fight losing streak to Jeremy Stephens, Charles Jourdain. Both of them finished him in round 2 via strikes, and Cub Swanson, a fight which is in the Hall of Fame. So this is a Hall of Famer I'm talking about here. Ho Choi is 14-4 overall. His wins include 11 via TKO KO, 1 via submission, and 2 via decision. He is a very fast starter. I've never seen this guy lose a first round. Not yet. Even in his 3 losses to the UFC, he won all 3 first rounds against Cub, Stephens, and Jourdain. And not to mention all of his other first round knockouts inside the UFC. I think he's a problem in round 1, unless he's developed into some sort of a fighter that's, more concerned with his cardio, whatever the fuck, and he's changed things around. But I can't go on that. I've got to go with the same guy. I'm sure he's bigger, stronger, better in a lot of different ways and learned plenty of new tricks, but I don't think you can shake that being, a quick starter. So he's going to want to get out there and get after it. And Kyle Nelson is a guy who I do think, even though they both have, or he's actually been finished, they've both been finished twice via strikes, but I still consider Nelson to be a little more vulnerable here. Nelson's 13-5 overall. He's got a mixed bag of victories, 5 KOs, 4 submissions, 4 decisions. And his 5 losses include 2 via TKO, 1 via submission, and 2 decisions. He's lost to Billy Quarantillo and Carlos Diego Fajeda. Both stopped him with strikes. Carlos got him on the ground, but both with strikes, and those were in rounds 2 and 3. So he's never been stopped early in round 1. Matt Sales submitted him in round 3 in the UFC, and that was a competitive fight where I thought Nelson was, about to take over, and then Sales shut that down. And his 2 decision losses are to Jai Herbert in his last fight, a fight which I thought he underperformed, really. Didn't really fight for the victory, in my opinion, as hard as he should have. But whatever, he's back. And his other loss is actually a 5-rounder. He lost a 5-rounder to this solid Albanian fighter. And it was still it was a spirited effort because he was getting his ass kicked, but he didn't really, make too much shit happen, in my opinion. But he showed toughness, which, whatever. You need toughness to weather the first round storm from Choi. So, look, Kyle Nelson intrigues me. I bet on him to beat Jai Herbert. And Choi, again, he's been knocked out twice, but I don't think he's got a weak chin like Jai Herbert does. Choi's never been knocked unconscious, although he probably drifted in and out between those huge ground and pound shots from Jeremy Stephens. But Choi, still, he's a tough guy. Both these guys are probably in their fighting prime. I know Choi's been out with the military service and all these layoffs and horse shit, but I think he's 31 now. Still young enough for us to call him the Korean Superboy. And I expect him to get a victory. I think even if he doesn't get a victory in round 1, I don't think Kyle Nelson, immediately takes over the fight like Charles Jourdain did, being in his face with pressure. And Charles is a slicker striker. Or like Jeremy Stephens. Kyle Nelson lacks the violence that Jeremy Stephens brings in a fight like that. So I'm going with Superboy. I want to see the knockout props, especially for rounds 1 and 2. If those were juicy, I would play them, but they're not available. I have played his money line at minus 190. I do see a little value there. And, but still, he's a guy that starts off strong and he has faded. He lost rounds 2 and 3 to Cub Swanson, and he was finished in round 2 against Jourdain and Stephens. So it's been a concern of mine, but that's a high level of competition, and this is not, in my opinion. This is definitely the lower end of the UFC. So Choi via knockout round 1 is my prediction, and my only bet is the money line, minus 190, and we will see what happens. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.